Hi and welcome to YOGABERRY, your yoga for scoliosis community. My name is Christine YOGABERRY. I'm a yoga teacher and I specialize in yoga for scoliosis. And today I'm sharing a short practice with you that I have recorded for my Shine membership, which is my Yoga for Scoliosis membership. And it's a little part from this practice to release the psoas, which is a very important muscle and can be quite imbalanced, of course, with scoliosis. So really good focus for our practice today. So all that you will need is a blanket and a yoga belt. So when you've got this, just join me on the mat. So we're in all fours. Let's bring the hands a little bit further forwards off the shoulders, making sure the knees are hip distance apart, and we're going to start with our kind of rocking forwards and backwards cat-cow variation. So again, today is not so much about length, or it's not so much about rounding and arching the spine. We're not doing that at all, actually. We're just moving the hips forwards and backwards and lengthening in either direction. So when you're coming forwards, maybe you feel how the front of the hips are opening a little bit more. When you're taking the hips back, reaching through the tailbone. Good, and just warming up the body here. Just rocking forwards and backwards. Good. From there, let's come back into that regular all fours position where the hands are directly underneath the shoulders. Extend your right leg behind you. We're going to keep the toes on the ground. We're just going to rock through the right heel a few times. So just to lengthen the back of the leg. Good. Just rocking through that heel, opening the calf muscle, opening the back of the leg. Good, and then from there we're going to lift the leg just in line with the rest of the body. Lengthen, let's point the foot just to change it up a little bit. Make sure that your neck is long at the front and at the back to create lots and lots of space. And then we're going to do little pulses with the leg up and down with the intention to open the front of the hip, not to arch the back. So that's not what we want. We want to lengthen, keep the lower ribs in towards you, and just tiny little pulses with the leg up and down. Good, lovely, and then release. Now other side, let's start with our rocking. So extend your left leg, toes on the ground. We're just going to rock through the heel, opening the back of the calf, back of the leg. Just rocking backwards and forwards. Good. And then second part, lift the leg away from the floor, point your foot, pull the lower ribs in towards you a little bit, especially if you tend to arch in your back. And then tiny little pulses with the leg up and down with the intention of opening the front of the hip. Good. Let's do a couple of more. Lovely. And then let's release. Good. Let's come up on towards the fingertips, and we're going to bring the left foot forwards in between the hands, and we're going to come up into a kneeling position. So if you're sensitive underneath the knees, you could always use a little bit of padding underneath the right knee right now. Lengthening through the crown of the head. That's the first thing, of course, we do. And remember where those psoas muscles are. All the way kind of from up here, the lowest rib over the front of the hip towards the inner thigh. So can you visualize this area? We're slightly drawing the front lower ribs in, not as far so that you cannot breathe, of course. That's not a good idea. But just a little bit of encouragement to draw them slightly in. And up, of course, as always. And then from there you can decide. You might already feel a stretch, in which case great, just stay there. You've done it. If you want, you can bring your hips slightly further forwards. But the purpose is not to feel a huge stretch in the quads, in the front of the thigh. So it's a little bit deeper. So don't overdo it. It's just maybe a tiny little bit. And then we're going to reach the right arm up and hold on to the right wrist with the left hand. So then you can use the left hand to lengthen that right arm up towards the ceiling. And imagine this whole line from the arm down, front of the body, over the front of the hip, and then into the leg. All of that is being lengthened and released. Good. Breathing. Nice. And then slowly release and change sides. So we're going to bring the right leg forwards. This might already feel completely different. As always, we notice the difference. You can always do all of this again. So don't be worried or don't be afraid to do things wrong or do it on the wrong side or anything like that. It's a practice. You can experiment and you can make it a little bit better next time you do it. So again, start with the lengthening, noticing the sensations. Can we draw the lower ribs slightly in? And then decide, do you want to come slightly further forwards to get a little bit more length? Or is it enough where you are? Bring the left arm up. Use the right hand to lengthen through that left arm. And again, imagine that whole side is being lengthened right now. The whole of the left, and especially the front of the left side. Good. Just taking a couple of more breaths. And I'm sure, let's slowly release, there was one side just suggesting that you might want to repeat. So notice what that is for you. And again, there isn't kind of a right or wrong, or with left lumbar you should be doing this, or with right thoracolumbar you should be doing that. No, because it could be different parts of that big muscle that could be tight and that might enjoy some release. So listen to what your body is telling you and see if you want to do one side again. So I'm going to do my left side again. I feel like that could do with a little bit more today. Good. And then slowly release when you had enough. We're going to come to lying down on the belly. So you might want to use your blanket here to support the front of the pelvis. So lying yourself down. When you're ready, you can make a pillow with the forearms, just resting your forehead on there. And just see if you can just settle into that support for a moment and notice if you need to change anything at all. So I'm feeling I need to slide back a little bit because my front ribs are kind of popping out otherwise. So I'm resting them back on the blanket. Taking a few breaths to settle. Good. And then from there, we're going to bend the right leg, flexing the foot so that the sole of the foot is up towards the ceiling. And first of all, I just want you to press the leg gently into the floor and then release. Just a couple of times. See how that feels. So pressing as if you want to kind of press the knee through the floor, obviously not overdoing it, gently, and then release. So this might be enough for you. Maybe that's where you want to work today. So we're alternating between contracting and then releasing. If you want a little bit more, what you could do is for a couple of moments pressing the leg into the floor and then lifting the leg away from the floor, a tiny little bit. So sole of the foot up towards the ceiling and then release. So pressing the leg into the floor, engaging those muscles and then lengthening by lifting the leg up towards the ceiling for a moment. Good. So we're not going to do this more than 3 times. So this is my third one, and then release, and we're going to change sides. So bending the left leg, again, you can just a couple of times, let's just press the leg into the floor and release without lifting it. Just to prepare for the second variation, if that's what you're going to practice. So if that's what you want to do, then start to press the leg into the floor, hold it for a moment, and then lifting the leg away from the ground and release. So pressing the leg into the floor, lifting it away and release. Good, last one. Lift it away from the floor and then release. Just release both legs. You can rock your hips from side to side. Just releasing. Good, bring the hands on either side of the chest and then pushing yourself up into hands and knees, and see what feels good for you right now, what you would like to do. Any movement goes, maybe it's extended puppy pose, maybe it's just rocking the hips from side to side. Cat cow, whatever feels right for you. Listen to your body. We're going to come to lying down on the back, and this time you will need your belt, your yoga strap. So I have folded this up a couple of times to make it a little bit thicker, but if you could also use a belt from a bathrobe, which is already a little bit thicker, but have a look and you will understand what we need it for. So I'm going to kind of take it across my yoga mat like this, and the purpose is for me to lie down, and I want the bottom of the rib cage, back of the rib cage, where we know that this big psoas muscles start. That's what I want to kind of here onto the belt, so that we can have a little bit of feedback from this little bit of height, basically. So come to lying down on the back. Again, you might have to kind of experiment and bring it a little bit lower, a little bit higher. You might not feel it straight away, but you will when you come into your bridge pose. So don't worry if there isn't a lot of contact right now, but just knowing where it is. So that's the area, and usually where you feel the front ribs kind of poking out, that's what we're going to kind of contain a little bit and try to keep this a little bit further down on the ground. So we're preparing for bridge pose. Have your feet hip distance apart. And then from there, we're going to think about the knees reaching away from us and the lower rib cage kind of staying in contact with the support of the belt here. So slowly start to lift your pelvis off the ground, and the pelvis is only lifting because the knees are reaching away from you. So it doesn't have to be high at all. So maybe it's just a tiny little bit, tiny little lift. And again, thinking about reaching through the legs. And if you want to come up a little bit higher, then feel free to come up a little bit higher, but not by pushing the chest up and reaching up too far. Again, our purpose, our intention today is to release the psoas, not to backbend. Good. And then slowly coming all the way down. Take a breath. And then let's do this again. So again, let it come from the legs. Let it come from that reaching of the knees away and forwards, reaching them forwards away from you, and keeping that contact with the belt as much as you can. Lengthening. Good. See how far you want to come up. What feels beneficial for you. And then we slowly come down. So I always recommend to finish a practice with a few minutes of rest and restore. So if you have a favorite resting pose, maybe it's Shavasana, just lying flat on the ground. Maybe you like resting with the legs against the wall, which is another great restorative pose. just pick one, take a few moments to rest. If you would like to join us in the Shine membership and you're interested in longer practice videos with me, some guest workshops, we have a weekly live practice as well every Wednesday, then check out the description below. And otherwise, I'll see you soon for the next video.